So the what we're getting at is that this, and then Congress is passing this 3 times, and Johnson keeps vetoing it. And I believe there was 5 of these. The 4th Reconstruction Act. So we have finally, basically, the result of the Reconstruction Act is that they forced these guys at gunpoint to adopt the 14th Amendment. So they forced them by with military governments. So the result is that these states were colorably expelled from the Union, even though they were always in the Union. They were colorably expelled from the Union, and then they were admitted back in because they, as a whole other citizenship. And now, if we get into the whole premise of this, we're going to find out that this U.S. citizenship, the term citizen of the United States meant that you were a citizen of one of the states prior to the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment attempted to make a whole new status called United States citizen, meaning you were a federal citizen. And what we have here is James G. Blaine says, in making this extension of citizenship, we are not confining the breadth and scope of our efforts to the Negro. In other words, this wasn't just for black people. So these people that say the 14th Amendment was for black people is false, because here's a guy that was on the Reconstruction Committee telling you, no, this isn't to be confined to the Negro. It is for the white man as well. I'm just quoting him. This is James G. Blaine. We intend to make citizenship national. Heretofore, a man has been a citizen of the United States because he was a citizen of some one of the states. Now, we propose to reverse that and make him a citizen of any state where he chooses to reside by defining in advance his national citizenship. So what they did is they, instead of multiple state citizenship statuses, they consolidated it into one, making one a federal citizen. And in doing that, in breaking up the state legislature governments and then forcing them to adopt this amendment, they now have effectively made them new states within a state. In other words, this is, if you guys understand how, like LB was saying, it's the states of the Union that make the United States, not the other way around. It's like this. If a state, before a state became a state, it was a territory. So before Florida became the state of Florida, it was the territory of Florida. And they had a constitution, but they weren't a state. They had a state constitution. And the way you become a state pursuant to the Constitution is that the people have to agree in your territory that they want to become a state of the Union. And then when they show, the reps show the evidence of that with their state constitution, with the people's consent, they go to Congress, and then Congress enacts a law saying, let it be enacted. This is the state of Florida now. So that's how a state is formed. Now, that was when, I'm just using Florida as an example because I'm from here. So Florida became the state of Florida in 1845, and they were recognized as Florida state citizens, as I just read here, and I have other cases that say that the word citizen of the United States means you're a citizen of one of the states, so you were a Florida state citizen before the 14th Amendment. And we're going to talk in later shows why state citizenship is not correct, why it's state nationality now, but that's beyond the scope of today. So when you study the Reconstruction Acts in the history, you'll see that these states were forced at gunpoint to adopt the 14th Amendment because, see, they didn't ratify it. So Congress had to come after them with military power to get them to adopt this 14th Amendment, which created this new national citizenship, which I just demonstrated here. That James G. Blaine said, no, the guy that's on the Committee of Reconstruction of the 39th Congress is stating right here in one of his commentaries. It's called Political Discussions, Legislative, Diplomatic, and Popular, 1856 to 1886. And
yeah, that was research that John Ainsworth found.
Yes, we thank you for that, Mr. John. And his wife found the book out of the blue at some bookstore.
Right, that's
Isn't that
true.
A trip? So I'm going to read that quote again. And in making this extension of citizenship, we are not confining the breadth and scope of our efforts to the Negro. It is for the white man as well. We intend to make citizenship national. Heretofore, a man has been a citizen of the United States because he was a citizen of some one of the states. Now we propose to reverse that and make him a citizen of any state where he chooses to reside by defining in advance his national citizenship. So there was no such thing as a national federal citizenship prior to the 14th Amendment. That's why they had to pass this 14th Amendment. And when the states rejected it, they had to force them at gunpoint and send military installations in times of peace. So that's the whole key, folks, that the states were always legal and legitimate. They passed the 13th Amendment. They had to have been recognized as legitimate. And it was in times of peace. So the only people that were in rebellion committing a crime was these evil people of the 39th Congress that drafted the Reconstruction Acts, which was the military authorization to force the legislatures at gunpoint to adopt the 14th Amendment into to colorably accept it.
They actually removed some of the governments, I believe all of them.
They removed them, yes.
Yes, and put in puppet governments.
And they put in puppet governments. And here, and see, what we're trying to say, folks, is that earlier I told you how a state is created, or not created, but how a state is accepted in the Union. It's by the people's consent, and it's by them giving them a constitution. But the thing is, the states were never expelled from the Union in the first place. They were always there. But on paper, you have the 39th Congress saying that they're not. And now here you have on paper after the Reconstruction, after the states were effectively destroyed, the southern states, here's the 39th Congress, whereas the people of North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida have, in pursuance of the provisions of an act, which is this Reconstruction Act, it's very long.
Yeah, they've gotten away with this based on people's ignorance. I don't even think Congress truly knows law today,
they don't.
Or even back then.
This is what they're saying. They're saying, whereas the people of, insert all these southern states, have framed constitutions of state government. So what they're saying here, folks, is that they're saying these states have framed constitutions as if they were never a state before, as if they're accepting them in again. Do you see the weird switcheroo they're doing, folks? Okay, a state is created by Congress saying, yeah, you guys framed a constitution. Yeah, all your people consented. You're a state of the Union now. Whereas once you were a territory. But then we have on paper them saying, nope, you're illegal, you're illegitimate, even though there's tons of evidence that you're not. Even though the president is vetoing that, we're just going to say that you're illegal anyway and that you're not, we're denying you seats, that you don't exist. We're going to put on paper that you don't exist, even though you really do. But now, you framed a constitution pursuant to our Reconstruction Acts, which, if you read the language of the Reconstruction Acts, it was mandatory that you incorporated the 14th Amendment in there. And they killed a bunch of people and got rid of their governments and said, now you frame constitutions of state government, which are Republican, and have adopted said constitutions by large majorities of the votes cast